It was near midday when Brett and I made our way towards Tombstone, Arizona. As we drove down the dusty roads, I couldn't help but feel as though we were being transported back in time. The town, with its wooden storefronts and hitching posts, looked like it had been plucked straight out of a Western movie. As we parked our car and stepped out onto the old town street, I couldn't help but feel a sense of excitement. I had always been fascinated by the Old West, and Tombstone was one of the most famous towns of that era. It was here that the legendary gunfight at the OK Corral had taken place, and where the likes of Wyatt, Earp and Holliday had made their names. As we walked down the main street, I felt like I was hearing the familiar strains of Ennio Morricone's Fistful of Dollars theme playing in the distance, as if the town was putting on a show just for me. I stopped to take a closer look at some of the storefronts. There was the Birdcage Theater, with its ornate Victorian facade and colorful past. The Crystal Palace Saloon was another famous landmark, and I couldn't resist peeking inside to see what it was like. The interior was just as I had imagined. Dimly lit, with a long bar and a row of tables along the wall. It was easy to imagine cowboys and gamblers sitting around, drinking whiskey and playing cards. But Tombstone wasn't just a tourist attraction. It was a real town, with real people living their lives. As I wandered down the side streets, I saw houses and gardens, children playing, and dogs barking. It was a strange juxtaposition. The town was like a living museum, frozen in time, but also a vibrant community where people worked and raised families. As the evening wore on, Brett and I made our way out of town towards the Boot Hill graveyard. It was said to be haunted by the spirits of the many outlaws who had been buried there, and I was curious to see if I could feel their presence. The graveyard was quiet and peaceful as I entered. The sun had set, and the sky was a deep purple. The graves were marked with simple wooden crosses and headstones, and I walked slowly among them, reading the names and dates. Some of the graves were unmarked, the occupants long forgotten. As we reached the far end of the cemetery, I heard a sound. It was like a whisper, or maybe a sigh. I turned, but there was no one there. I felt a shiver run down my spine, and I wondered if it was just my imagination or something more. I made my way back to my car, feeling both exhilarated and a little spooked. Tombstone was a place like no other, a town that was both a living piece of history and a modern community. I knew that I would always remember my visit, and that I would return someday to experience it all over again.